The World Heavyweight Championship just changed hands in a moment that nobody saw coming, and the wrestling world is still trying to process what happened on Monday Night Raw. Bron Breakker has done it. The young powerhouse has climbed to the absolute peak of WWE by defeating Seth Rollins in a match that showcased everything that makes professional wrestling so captivating. This wasn't just another title change. This was a statement. This was a passing of the torch, whether anyone was ready for it or not. Before we dive into every brutal detail of this championship clash, make sure you hit that subscribe button because you won't want to miss a single moment of what's coming next in WWE. The tension in the arena was thick from the moment both men made their entrances. Seth Rollins walked out with the World Heavyweight Championship around his waist, carrying himself with the confidence of a man who has been at the top of this industry for over a decade. He knows what it takes to be champion. He knows the pressure, the expectations, and the constant target on your back. But across from him stood Bron Breakker, a man who has been compared to his legendary uncle Scott Steiner and his father Rick Steiner since the day he stepped into a WWE ring. Bron has been on an absolute tear through the roster, destroying everyone in his path with a combination of raw power and surprising athleticism that makes him unlike anyone else in the company right now. The match started with both men circling each other, feeling out the situation, trying to find any opening or weakness they could exploit. Rollins tried to use his experience advantage early, going for quick strikes and trying to keep distance between himself and the powerhouse challenger. He knows that getting into a straight power battle with Bron Breakker is a losing proposition for almost anyone on the planet. Rollins landed a series of quick kicks to Bron's legs, trying to chop down the bigger man, trying to take away his base and his explosive power. But Bron just absorbed the punishment, his face showing no pain, no concern, just pure focus on the championship he came to win. Then it happened. Rollins went for a running forearm, but Bron caught him mid-air and launched him across the ring with a belly-to-belly suplex that made the entire arena gasp. The champion hit the mat hard, and you could see in his eyes that he realized this was going to be different from any other title defense he's had. Bron wasn't intimidated by the moment. He wasn't nervous about the biggest match of his career. If anything, he looked more confident, more determined, more dangerous than ever before. He stalked Rollins like a predator that had just tasted blood and wanted more. Rollins tried to fight back with everything in his arsenal. He hit Bron with forearms, chops, kicks, even tried for a suplex of his own but couldn't get the powerhouse off his feet. Every time Seth thought he was building momentum, Bron would just explode with another display of strength that reset everything. A shoulder tackle sent Rollins tumbling through the ropes to the outside. A gorilla press slam on the floor left the champion gasping for air. Bron was in complete control, and the crowd was starting to sense that they might be witnessing something special, something historic. But Seth Rollins didn't become a multiple-time world champion by giving up when things got tough. He started targeting Bron's knee, slamming it against the ring post, hitting it with repeated stomps, trying to take away the vertical base that makes Bron so dangerous. For the first time in the match, Bron showed signs of vulnerability. He was limping slightly, favoring that injured knee, and Rollins pounced on it like the veteran he is. He locked in a figure-4 leglock right in the center of the ring, wrenching back on that injured knee, trying to force a submission or at least damage it enough that Bron couldn't hit his most devastating moves. Bron screamed in pain but refused to tap out. He dragged himself and Rollins across the ring, using pure upper body strength to reach the ropes and force a break. The referee made Rollins release the hold, but the damage was done. Bron pulled himself up using the ropes, his knee clearly bothering him, and Rollins smelled blood in the water. The champion went for a springboard knee strike, but Bron caught him in midair and drove him down with a spine buster that shook the ring. Both men were down, both breathing hard, both knowing that this match was going to come down to who wanted it more. They traded blows in the center of the ring, Rollins with his strikes and Bron with clubbing forearms that sounded like gunshots echoing through the arena. Rollins hit a super kick that staggered Bron. He followed up with a ripcord knee that dropped the challenger to one knee. Seth backed up, measuring Bron for the stomp that has ended so many matches and won him so many championships. He went for it, jumping up for that curb stomp, but Bron moved at the last second and Seth landed hard on the mat. Before he could react, Bron grabbed him and launched him overhead with a released German suplex that sent Rollins crashing into the turnbuckles. Bron was feeding off the energy of the crowd now. Despite the injured knee, despite all the punishment he had taken, he was getting stronger. He hit Rollins with a running shoulder tackle in the corner that knocked all the air out of the champion's lungs. He whipped Seth across the ring and hit him with a flying shoulder tackle on the rebound that nearly sent Rollins through the mat. Bron was setting up for his spear, the devastating move that has put away so many opponents. He pounded his chest, calling for Rollins to get up, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Rollins pulled himself up using the ropes, stumbling toward the center of the ring, and Bron charged. But at the last second, Rollins leapfrogged over him and Bron crashed shoulder first into the ring post. The veteran instincts of Rollins had saved him once again. Seth rolled up Bron from behind, grabbing a handful of tights for leverage, and the referee counted to 2 before Bron powered out with such force that he sent Rollins flying across the ring. Both men were exhausted, both running on fumes, but neither willing to let this match end without giving everything they had. Rollins went to the top rope, looking for a high-risk move that could put Bron away for good. He launched himself off with a frog splash, but Bron got his knees up at the last second and Rollins crashed down onto them. Before Seth could roll away, Bron grabbed him and deadlifted him off the mat into a powerbomb position. He ran across the ring and threw Rollins into the turnbuckles with a buckle bomb that left the champion crumpled in the corner. This was it. This was Bron's moment. He backed up to the opposite corner, measured his target, and charged forward with a spear that connected right in the center of the ring. The impact was devastating. Rollins was folded in half by the move and Bron hooked the leg for the cover. The referee dropped down and counted 1, 2, 3. The match was over. Bron Breakker was the new World Heavyweight Champion. The crowd erupted as Bron was handed the title belt, falling to his knees with the championship clutched against his chest. Years of hard work, years of proving himself, years of living up to an impossible family legacy had all led to this single moment. He stood up and raised the championship high above his head, tears streaming down his face as the reality of what he had just accomplished began to sink in. Seth Rollins lay on the mat, staring at the lights, processing the fact that his championship reign had come to an end. He had given everything he had, but it wasn't enough against the young powerhouse who had just dethroned him. Slowly, Seth pulled himself up and looked at Bron standing in the corner with the title. For a moment, nobody knew what was going to happen. Would Seth attack? Would he refuse to accept the loss? But instead, he walked over to Bron and extended his hand. Bron looked at the offered hand, then at Seth's face, and shook it. The crowd cheered as the veteran showed respect to the new champion, acknowledging that the better man won on this night. The implications of this title change are massive for WWE going forward. Bron Breakker at just 27 years old is now the face of Monday Night Raw and potentially the entire company. He represents the future of WWE, a blend of old-school power wrestling and modern athleticism that appeals to fans of every generation. The championship looks right at home on his shoulder, like it was always meant to be there. He has the look, the ability, the intensity, and now the championship that proves he belongs at the very top of this industry. For Seth Rollins, this loss marks the end of another chapter in his incredible career, but certainly not the end of his story. He has proven time and time again that he can bounce back from setbacks and reinvent himself. The question now is what comes next for the former champion. Does he invoke his rematch clause? Does he move on to other feuds and challenges? Does this loss change him in some fundamental way? Seth has always been at his most dangerous when his back is against the wall, and right now he's facing one of the biggest challenges of his career. The new champion Bron Breakker now has a target on his back that is bigger than anything he has experienced before. Every superstar on the Raw roster will be gunning for him, wanting their shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. He will have to prove that he can not only win the title but defend it against all comers. The pressure of being champion is different from the pressure of chasing the championship, and many great wrestlers have crumbled under that weight. But if there's one thing Bron has shown throughout his career, it's that pressure doesn't break him, it only makes him stronger. Looking at the match itself, it was a perfect showcase of two different wrestling styles colliding. Seth brought his experience, his technical skills, his ability to adapt and counter anything his opponent threw at him. Bron brought his raw power, his intensity, his seemingly limitless capacity to absorb punishment and keep coming forward. The combination created a match that had the crowd on their feet from bell to bell, never quite sure which way it was going to go until that final spear connected and the 3 count was made. The booking of this match and this title change shows that WWE is willing to pull the trigger on young talent when they believe in them. Bron Breakker has been protected and built up carefully since his debut, given increasingly difficult challenges in passing every test put in front of him. This title win feels earned, not rushed, not premature, but like the natural culmination of a story that has been building for months. He defeated a legitimate main event star in Seth Rollins, someone who has beaten the best in the business, and he did it clean in the middle of the ring with his finishing move. There's no asterisk next to this victory, no controversy, just a decisive win by a young champion who is ready for this moment. The celebration after the match showed just how much this meant to Bron. He wasn't cocky or arrogant in victory. He was emotional, grateful, and seemed almost overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he had just accomplished. He pointed to the crowd, thanking them for their support throughout his journey. He held the championship up in all 4 corners of the ring, making sure everyone could see the new champion. And when he finally left the ring, championship over his shoulder, he looked back one more time at the ring where he had just achieved his dream. This is just the beginning of the Bron Breakker championship era. The matches ahead, the challengers lining up, the stories that will be told with him at the center of Monday Night Raw, all of it promises to be must-see television. WWE has found their next big star and they just put the most important championship in the company on him. Now it's up to Bron to prove that this wasn't a fluke, that he can carry the company on his shoulders the way the great champions before him have done. Based on everything we've seen from him so far, he's more than ready for that responsibility. Make sure you subscribe to stay updated on everything happening with the new World Heavyweight Champion and all the fallout from this shocking title change. The landscape of WWE just shifted dramatically and you won't want to miss what happens next.